Okay, and then we get into really weird stuff in Pico-8 that is fun, and that is kind of like for the real sickos in Pico-8. So there is like a memory in Pico-8, which is again reminiscent of how old software hardware used to work. You can just peek and poke stuff into memory and operate the system that way. You don't have to rely on APIs. But the fun thing about Pico-8 is that it is kind of, you realize very quickly that it's made up. It's completely fantasy fabrication because it doesn't include all of the operations. It doesn't include all the variables that you deal with. Like all the code lives in this cloud next to it, and you don't have access to this. So it's just like a little subset no, well, not a big subset of Pico-8 that's actually accessible through memory, and all the other stuff is just like, don't worry about it. It's there somewhere. So this is kind of fun, but because you have like the second way of accessing the system that is more for more advanced users, you can hide away secrets there. You can be more of this can be more of a game kind of. So I have a memory of an event once time, like a couple of years ago, where I woke up and turned on the computer, look at what's happening in the community, and people are freaking out because somebody found out that if you poke the right value into the right address, there's suddenly more callers. We can use more callers, guys. And it's been revealed that this feature has been there for months, and nobody discovered this. And it's like, it was like this incredible discovery. Everyone was like going crazy. And it's fun that it becomes like the platform becomes even more of a, as I said, like a game, like an augmented reality game. Like it becomes like a puzzle, like a challenge, and there's like always this mystery, or there's this hope that maybe we can discover some more. Maybe there's even more colors. Maybe there's more features. And obviously there is, but sometimes it's just like down to just using the system in a more efficient way. I think something very basic, but that is very important, is that this is not just happening in a bubble, but there's also generous export functions, so you can hook up into different systems. So whatever you create can land in different places. So obviously, Pico-8 runs on Raspberry Pi, so you have a ton of mobile Raspberry Pi devices that you can bring your stuff on, and you can code on the go, and it's great. It has a robust HTML5 export, and I mean robust HTML5 export. If you ever exported HTML5 from Unity or something like this, it's a checkbox on the package. It doesn't really work. It's just technical HTML5 export, but not really practical HTML5 export. This is practical one. You can upload your games to itch.io, and it's a very good way to experience Pico-8 because you don't have to download software. It's just right there in the browser. And of course, you can even though it doesn't feel like it's the right place, but you can even create executables and upload it to platforms like Steam and so forth. So there's like, you have a wide variety of options to share your work, and that's fantastic. But also it creates like these weird situations where, because everything is integrated, and because it runs on mobile systems, you can like hook up a keyboard to your Raspberry Pi Game Boy and start coding on your Game Boy, and it becomes like this transformative window into this universe. It's kind of incredible and fun and surprising and pretty goofy as well. And finally, I think one thing that we have to talk about is that there's a metaphor at play here. And that's kind of like plays into what I said, like the limitations are made up. There's like this game happening, this cat and mouse game. And there is like the language here is also very important. So for example, programs are not called programs or apps or anything like this. They're called cards. And they look like cards because like there's a little feature that's a little bit silly, but you can do this, is you can export your program and all of the graphics, all of the code, all of the music into an image. It's actually encoded into the image. And the way this works is like they're using the lower bytes of the alpha transparency mask. So they get a little bit of noise in there, and that noise encodes all of the data. And the image is the image of a card, of like a Game Boy card. So it actually creates a little bit of a physicality, so to speak. You actually have cards that you put into Pico-8, which is silly. They didn't have to do this. But I think it fuels this metaphor that this is a console, this is a physical object maybe. And it kind of like sets expectations, and it makes you think differently about the kind of work you do and what the system can do. Right, so it's not just limitations. It's all these other things as well that make up this very unique experience, this very unique thing that we call Fantasy Console. And this is not just true of Pico-8. Obviously, some people probably also work with TIC80, right? Hands up who works with TIC80? Oh, great, great, great. Yes, so the two survivors of the great fantasy console wars, Nintendo and Sega, reborn under different names, so to speak. Yeah, so that's kind of like what we understood as fantasy console. But now, there's a new thing, and that new thing is Picotron. And once again, we're reinventing the wheel, kind of a little bit, I feel. Because suddenly, we have to think about it, like, okay, so limitations are, people are complaining about the limitations. Should we just increase the limitations to give you more resolution? Make it, instead of if Pico-8 is NES, make a Super NES or an N64 to Pico-8. And it's like, the limitations are the point, right? It's kind of weird to remove them. They're kind of, this is what it's all about. This is what is driving the identity of the console. So if you just keep removing the limitations, you're kind of removing the heart of the project. So what else can be there in the first place? And it's also like, that's not a sustainable process, right? You just end up copying more and more advanced consoles. And like 30 years, I'm going to be here showing you something that looks like Unreal Engine. And it's going to be running on the equivalent of a PlayStation 5. I don't know, that makes no sense. That doesn't go anywhere, right? So how do we evolve Pico-8? How do we evolve the idea of the fantasy console? And I think, I don't have insight, I don't have any connections to Zap, the creator of Pico-8. But I think what he did there is to think about, look exactly what the community is doing, and think about what can't we do with Pico-8 that we might want to do with Pico-8 that is not really necessarily tied to the restrictions, to the limitations that we talked about. And one thing that people really like to do with Pico-8 is make tools. So one of the most successful cards on Pico-8 is called PicoCAD, which is like a very tiny 3D modeling tool in which you create tiny little low-poly 3D models, and artists love this because it's so easily shareable with a GIF recording function, and you can get like these very crazy pixelated models, and it's really fun. But it's also like not ideal, right? It's very low resolution. The usability of it is a little bit like, could be a little bit better. And also on the right, we have examples of, like when you make a game Pico-8, sometimes you run into like, I need a very specific kind of editor for this kind of type of game. And then you end up creating an editor in Pico-8. And it's great, but it's like not as tightly integrated into the system as the other editors are. So it's like, it's a little, there's a bit of a friction there. And therefore, I think that's kind of the key to understand where we're going with Picotron, that it's no longer a fantasy console, it's more of a workstation. It's a place where you can, it replicates a lot of things that makes working with Pico-8 fun, but exposes the underlying mechanics to you, so you can customize them, so you can create your own tools that suit whatever you're working on. You can create tools for other things. You can create a word processor in there if you want to. You can create tools for creating more Picotron projects, but also you can create tools for Pico-8 even. It doesn't even cannibalize Pico-8. It's still, it can be still used together. And I think one of the things that kind of replaces a little bit the limitations is kind of like this mind-blowing concept. We're going to see this in a second. So the logo looks a little bit like the two hands drawing each other by Escher. That's because everything in Picotron is made in Picotron. Like Picotron is made out of Picotron. There's like this recursive loop happening here. And we asked Zep about this. Oh, is that the metaphor? Is that the idea with the logo? And he said, like, I mean, it's fun, but all I want to do is a space egg. And so it's kind of like a coincidence, but it's my headcanon now. Anyway, enough faffing around. Let's do some demo. I'm gonna sit down a little bit. Oh, okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna let's close this a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna start Picotron because there's a startup sequence that's also always a fun thing. And then let's go full screen. Right, so immediately you see that there is a new metaphor at play here. We immediately see like this desktop environment, and that is very much reminiscent, obviously, of like old, early desktop environments. You know, like again, I'm very familiar with Atari ST. That's the thing that evokes. Some people say the early Apple computers or Amiga or whatever, whatever you encountered first in this kind of metaphor. So yeah, you can move around things, you can have files here, and everything is peachy. It is a little bit playful, a lot more playful than maybe those old computers, because like, look, you can have like this, whoop, you can pull this up, and then there's this whole area, and there's like eyes looking at you and all this stuff. So you can have a bit of fun here. And then if you go into the settings, let me show you some settings a little bit. Some of the stuff is a little bit undercooked, like there's some UI crimes, as I call them. Like this is a button that switches between different pages. I don't know, it doesn't seem right to me. But yeah, that's all the system settings that you get. And a lot of people ask, is this like an operating system? It's not. It just looks like one. It's supposed to build on top of an operating system. And you can tell because all of the networking is just like a checkbox. So do you want network or not? That's all you'd get. It wouldn't be nice if real networking was like this, huh? So yeah, it's not an operating system, but it looks like one, so that's cool. And obviously, one of the important things is that, very important, is that you can have your own custom themes, and you can customize them as you want, and you can have wallpapers. Something that I want you to realize is that, again, everything that you see, every little widget and little thing that you see is a Picotron card that you can customize and edit. So even the desktop background, which usually would be just a picture, that is program running in the background. So you can see, like if I click on this, you can see that the monsters are actually changing clothes, right? And I think this one, the robot, no, not the Skeleton. You can see the skeletons are moving a little bit, right? So, and there's a test. Okay, that doesn't do anything. And for example, this one that you saw at the beginning, this patchwork, this one, that's procedurally generated. So every time you click, there's a different pattern happening. So you can see immediately there's like this playfulness to this console, which, okay, you don't have the limitations that much. We're going to talk about limitations in a second, but there's still like a lot of prompts for you to get creative, to get like start playing around with stuff, and you can maybe run something in the background. Maybe you have like a cool demo that you can run in the background. So that's cool. Oh yeah, to show you, like you can see that it's reacting live to the mouse cursor here. Right, so let's set it to default. I like the defaults generally. Right, so here in the upper right corner is the thing I was talking about, how the entire development environment in Pico-8 is tightly integrated. You can very quickly switch between different tools. This is kind of like copying that idea that you can switch between different tools very quickly, and at any given time you are editing one project, and all of the tools reference that same project, so there is very little necessity for like file management. Maybe if you're between projects and saving stuff and like doing backups or something, but when you're working on a project, every tool points to that same project, so there's no there's folders, but you don't have to deal with them. And all of the tools look very much like Pico-8 tools. So this is like a sprite editor. You have sprites here. This is like a map editor. You can make maps, and the maps are big, however big you want. This is a sound editor. This is a bit of a rabbit hole. Maybe you're going to have some time to play around with this a little bit, but it is incredibly powerful. Maybe the most complicated tools from the ones that we have here. This gets you back to the desktop, and obviously you have also the command line interface, and in fact it's very tightly integrated into everything, so at any given point you can just press escape and you get the command line interface. So if that's how you want to interact with the system, that's fine. Right, so let me show you maybe a little bit some of how things work in Picotron. So there's a README file on the desktop, which is fun. And you get like some cues, this is how you get started, this is how you get some stuff going here. Something that I wanted to show you that is a little bit weird, like there's an image here, and this is supposed to be a text file. And if you click on the image, you see that there is like a whole bunch of code in here. That is one of the specialties of Picotron. There is this concept of pods, Picotron object data, it's called. So the idea is that you can take Lua objects and encode them into strings, and then use those strings to interact with each other, save them on files. In fact, one of the mind-blowing things about Picotron is that everything is a pod. All the files are pods. Everything that you see on the desktop are pods. Everything is also a pod happening. Just to show you that where all this stuff is that you see, like all the things that you can customize, I will show you a bit of a folder structure maybe. So here's the system folder. That system folder gets wiped at launch and reset to defaults. So changing anything in the system folder is just temporary. And if you go in there, you will see all of the things, all of the cards, all of the Lua scripts that are running Picotron, and you can edit each one of them. So for example, here are the apps, right? And for example, here's a graphics editor that I've shown you just now. Here is the text file editor that I've shown you. Here's the terminal window. You can edit the terminal window if you want to, right? So everything that you see here is customizable and changeable. You can change anything that you see. And each one of those you can the way this works is the P64 is the file format for a Picotron card. And unlike Pico-8, this is not just like a fixed file format, it's more of a folder. So you can go into those folders if you want to and see what kind of files are inside. And the way you do this, there's a hack a little bit. You just go here and here and go /. And then you see what's the code inside here. And again, that's the thing I was talking about, reverse engineering. You can just learn about Picotron just by reverse engineering everything that you see. Like, oh, how does that work? And then you just open this thing up. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to click on here. I'm going to click on here. There we go. And then you see the code. And some of the code is even commentated. So that's a way to just discover Picotron. This is especially important now, early on, because the documentation is not great right now. It's very much in development. A lot of things are changing. So there is some documentations, but a lot of things are still like in the dark. And most of the people who work Picotron, who are building Picotron, are using this kind of stuff, are kind of like looking into the code files and discovering how everything works. Right, but as I said, if you change anything here, it doesn't have any kind of repercussions, it gets just reset, and you're back to normal. So if you want to have changes that stay for longer, for example, here are the screensavers, right? If you want to change, if you want to create your own screensavers, they don't belong in a system folder, they belong in an app data folder. And here you can recreate, like here's a system folder that basically recreates all of the folder structure that you saw in system. And whenever there's a folder in here that is the same name as a folder in system, that system folder gets replaced by whatever you have in app data. So this is going to be your own custom screensavers and apps and stuff like that will live here, right? So here are my wallpapers and screensavers and whatever. Right, maybe just a short look into what you can all customize. So you can obviously customize themes. You can customize. There's some custom fonts. We don't quite know how fonts work currently, but you can also like all the stuff in the tool tray. Where is it? I don't see it. You can also, like all of the commands in the CMD here, you can customize, also create custom commands for the command line system as well. And they're also going to be just Lua scripts that live here in one of those folders. I don't see it right now. I think it's util. Yeah, it's util. Like all of the commands in the command line interface, like load, make dir, open, these are all Lua scripts, and you can add your own or change the way the default ones work. Right, so, and this is the part where we're going to start to do some coding. How about we do some coding? So I'm going to close this. Now this is an exception here. We have two main Lua files open because one is open from a different program. As I said, usually we all are editing one program. Oh, by the way, just to show you where that lives. So there's this RAM folder. This is the folder where everything lives that is being currently opened. And this folder has a card folder, and the card folder is the current program, the current project that you're working on right now. And everything that you have in your current folder, in your current loaded project is this here. So here's main Lua, and this is the main Lua that we're editing here, all right? And when I save this, this folder gets basically packaged and exported into a P64 file. Right, and so how does the code work? Well, if you're familiar with Pico-8, it's basically, most of the time it's backwards compatible. It works probably like Pico-8 works. So you have like your function in it that's called at the beginning of the of the code of the program. You have your function draw. That includes all of the stuff that is being drawn to the screen. And then you have your function update. That is also called, so the draw and update, there's a split. There's two functions that are being called every frame. One is draw and the other one is update. The difference here is that the draw function is only called, it's not guaranteed to be called at 60 frames per second. If the CPU gets bogged down, it gets called less frequently. The update function is called at 60 frames per second. So you have a kind of like built-in a frame rate independence happening here. That's kind of like really nice. Just for the people who are not familiar with Pico-8. Okay, so yeah, and then if let me see, we can obviously, like in Pico-8, we can clear the screen. Let's run this. It's cleared. We can change the color of the screen that we cleared. Ooh, it's this one or this one. Nice. And then obviously, the best colors, yes, I'm choosing the best. The best one is obviously number 13. There's just no better color than this. Is just the best color. But for backgrounds, I'm fine with just doing the nice blue. It's okay, like it's good. Then we can obviously print on the screen. That is also possible. Usually we do hello world, but this time we're going to go hello evoke. And then we're going to put it in the center of the screen. Now, this is the problem if you're working Pico-8. Like, usually it was very easy to find out where the center is, whereas there's always 64, 64. This time, things are different. Oh, no, look at this. It's all the way in the corner because we have a high resolution happening, obviously, here. And this is the real moment. I forgot what the resolution is. And it's just I haven't used it that much. But I have a specs cheat sheet here, so there it is, 480 times 270. There's other modes that you can use as well. We're going to explore that in a second. Let me just copy this here a little bit. Thank you. So. And yeah, so let's try to center this text. So it's going to be like something like 200 and like 135. Seems good. Hey. Let's like go a little bit higher. Still not high enough. I'm a stickler here. Okay, good. So we have a beautiful demo happening here, and obviously that's not great. let's add a little bit more graphics to it. So this is just a beautiful sprite, isn't it? Let's just bring this to the screen. So, It's a little bit artsy-fartsy. That's true. A little bit of expressionistic thing. Let me show off some real heart here. Yeah, see, this is the good stuff. And by the way, while we're here, I can talk a little bit about the palette. So the palette that we have available is a lot bigger. We don't just have 16 colors. We don't have even the secret 32 colors. We have 64 colors, and all of these are kind of compatible with Pico-8. So the first row are Pico-8 colors. The second row are reminiscent of the secret Pico-8 colors, but there is some slight changes. Like I think the purple is new, and thank God we have a purple finally. That's a huge revolution for Pico-8, and there's like pinks and everything. Super sweet. But you see that there's like 2 rows of colors that are just black, and those colors are free for you to customize. In fact, all of the colors are free for you to customize. You can mess around with each of the colors. There's a place in memory where you can poke data into, and you can poke RGB data, and you can redefine the entire color palette if you want to. It's a good idea, probably. We have a little experience with this so far, but it's a good idea to just stick to this black area here if you want to have custom colors, because if there's multiple programs running at the same time, they will share palettes, and then you will get funky colors in some other programs, maybe if you start messing around with the color palette. But just to show you how that works, I can show you like right away how the community is actually already participating in creating like tools for Pico-8. So I have a little bit of a squirrel or some stuff in here. This is the OKPal editor, which is fantastic. And as you can see, it's registered as one of the tools now that I can use next to the other tools that were there by default. I can also make it so that it starts by default. It becomes part of how I use Picotron. And here I can just like click one of those colors and start redefining them. Let me see, how does it work? Here, and then I can just drag this, and ooh, I can get some new colors in here. And there's like all these cool tools how I can position the color in different types of spaces and everything. I can see how it looks when I put it in the background. Ooh, I can click on here and to try different shading stuff. And you can see this color is now saved in here in this place. And that change is already active in all the other programs. So I can now use this beautiful color in other tools immediately. Getting this into the actual code, into your actual card, is a little bit complicated, but there's like a control, there we go, F1. There's like a little code that you have to copy out, this one, and that will poke all of the data from this palette into memory, and then you can use it also in your code. But the tools can already use it. Right, so this is the kind of tools that you can create for Picotron. You can like hook into the system and everything can interact with each other on the go. So let me finish this heart here a little bit. So yes, no, I'm a bit of a perfectionist here. Oh, live art right there. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Let's keep this. So this is now, this is exactly how it would work in Pico-8. This is now sprite number 2 in the sprite sheet, but of course we are now far less restricted in Pico-8. You can see this is a 16 times 16 sprite. In Pico-8 these would have been 8 times 8 sprites. And also in this sprite system, each sprite can be a custom size. So these are 16 times 16 sprites, but I can make this sprite 128 times 128, and it's just like now you have like this gigantic sprite that is part of the sprite sheet, right? You can just paint around. This is like the size of the entire window of Pico-8 in one sprite, right? And you have up to 256 sprites in one sprite sheet, and you can have multiple sprite sheets now. You can load them in real time and everything. So there is far less restrictions when it comes to these kind of things. But for now, let's just keep using this the way we use Pico-8. So this is sprite number 2. And let's just draw sprite number 2 at, I don't know, let's go 190, 100, whatever, so it's not overlapping anything. And there's our little heart. Ah, isn't that nice? Good, and of course, like you can now, I have to move something on the screen now, so let's move something on the screen. So let's make more hearts. Just a little demo of how things work. So we have something moving on the screen. So let's make 15 hearts. Let's make whatever. Let's make something move in time around the circle. And let's multiply it by 40. And then we just do the same thing on the y-axis. And of course, this has to be cosine. Right, and then the sprite, we're going to draw 190 plus x, 100 plus y. Let's see how that looks. Ooh, now we have one heart circling the h here. That's not what we want. We have multiple hearts, obviously. So the way we do this is we're going to go, let's go divided by 2 plus, where's the plus? I'm using a German keyboard since quite a while now, and it's very confusing. Okay, like this, right? And then the same thing here as well. Let's run this. Oh, we have now multiple hearts. How beautiful. And then maybe a little bit wider circle. Oh, that's too wide. I made a mistake. Oh, that's 800. Yeah. Okay, good. Ha. And then obviously, let's center this a little bit. 240, 135. And then we can do something like this. We can change one of those. We get one of those. Ooh, nice. Okay, so like this, just to give you an idea that things can move on the screen as well, right? And of course, this is one of those engines where it's your job to clear the screen. So if you don't clear the screen, you get like, ooh, funky effects happening. So that's one of the cool things that you can play around with in Picotron and Pico-8 as well. Good. So I'm going to save this, but actually, and in fact, running and saving as Control S and Control R at any given point, that makes it for like a very rapid prototyping environment. That's just, again, one of those very integrated features of Picotron and Pico-8. So I'm going to save this. save evoke.p64.png, right? And then now it was saved, and if I type in folder, it shows me the folder that Pico-8 Picotron lives in, and there's the folder, and there's my evoke PNG file. And as with Pico-8, all of the oops, there's too much. I scrolled accidentally. All of the data was encoded into this picture now, and it is encoded into lower bits again of the alpha transparency mask. So you have like the same kind of metaphor a little bit like in Pico-8, which is a bit weird because it's no longer a console. It's supposed to be a workstation now, but it still uses cards like Pico-8. If you want to export your programs this way, you have a hard limit at 256 kilobyte. So that introduced maybe a little bit of a limitation there, right? Yeah, and of course, you can obviously capture an image here and can write data here if you want to, but yeah, that's a bit of an advanced topic. Okay, so if I have this, I can also now obviously use this as anything in Picotron. So I can, for example, put this as a screensaver or as a desktop background. So let's try to do that, just like to show off. No, that's not where I want to go. I want to go here. There is our evoke PNG. We're going to copy this, and we're going to get this in my app data folder system in wallpapers. There we go. That's where we're going to put this. We're going to paste this in here. All right, copy and paste doesn't work. Maybe that's something that we're going to have to hack in later. So we're just going to drag and drop it in here. And you know, something that I really like is the playfulness of this system. It's like when you copy multiple things. Oops, I didn't want to do that. When you copy multiple things, and you drag them around, they follow the mouse cursor like, oh, that's so nice. Isn't that nice? In fact, one of the most important settings that I haven't even turned on is squishy windows. Yeah, woo! You have now squishy windows. All of the windows are squishy now. Very important, very important. Yeah, way ahead of Apple here. Okay, so again, I wanted to put evoke in here in the wallpapers. And now it's in the wallpapers. And now if I set the system settings, so I go in the system settings in the wallpapers, then you will see that evoke should be in here. And there's evoke. And now you see evoke running in the background. We have now the hearts running in the background all the time. Isn't that nice? Yay. Right, so let me show you some other cool things. Right, so all right, I want to close this, but I forgot that there's a desktop background now. Well, it's going to be running here forever now. So one of the major developments recently that is kind of really cool is this thing here, not this one here. So Sophie Holden, one of the big Pico-8 developers, created this beautiful tool. So this is one of the major additions. Now we have vector programs in Picotron, so we can now do vector art if you want to. And it like hooks into the same systems that all the other tools are hooking in, so you could create like files in the current working directory. You can create multiple layers, and it's like very nice and easy to create like different kinds of shapes, and you can save them. And again, it's all hooking into the color palette that we talked about. Although Sophie is using this, you cannot set it to the different color palette, so you don't see our new color that we just created. Oh, how sad. But yeah, you can create like these things here, and obviously I have a demo for you here as well to show you a little bit, because I think it's worth looking at this. Where is it? There, here. Okay, so load VGFX demo. So this is a demo that she p64.png. Not found. It's fine. So you can see that these are full screen vector effects running in Picotron. And one thing that is worth paying attention to is like the CPU load. When that hits 1, you hit the limit, and then the frame rate goes down. So we can see that there is some limitations in Picotron after all, and I think CPU might be actually one of the most important ones. It seems like, because like compared to the amount of pixels we have, it's like it's a linear relationship between the amount of pixels and the amount of pixels we had in Pico-8. So it's actually kind of like the same kind of CPU that we had in Pico-8. So this might be the major driving limitation now. There is no tokens right now that we had, and the color palette is very much open. But yeah, you can see that it's very easy to hit the limit here. So now we have like all the stars, all those different shapes, and we are already 1 on the CPU clock. And you can see what's happening in the background, all the polygons and everything. And obviously, because this is a Picotron card, you can also edit this and look how this stuff was made and everything. So you can see that we loaded this, and now we can like examine the code exactly and see how everything works. And she even left some beautiful. Is it a to-do list or is it a manual? Yes. Oh, it's a change log. That's nice. Good. Right, maybe something that we can, because we have a little bit time, let me show you a little bit music. Is that okay? Is everybody wants to get, because the music is confused. I'm not a musician, so right away I'm not going to be making beautiful chip tunes, but I will show you how you, with your talents, can maybe make beautiful chip tunes. So this is probably the most complicated editor yet, and we are still understanding the editor because it's still a work in progress, and there is some major UI crimes happening here. This is like a crime scene. This is the bloodbath, I tell you. Okay, so we have like in Pico-8, we have a bunch of instruments, but we have a lot more instruments now. The only problem is the instruments are not pre-configured. You have to build the instruments yourself with using kind of like a mod synthesizer kind of interface. And, oh boy, that's a mouthful. It would be nice if there were at least some presets, so you can just start out with something. But nah, this is the early times. We only have this. Do we see this? Can we make this louder? Is that what makes things louder? Oh, louder, louder. Oh my gosh. Louder even, louder even. Can we go louder? Is that good? Everybody listening a beep? It's not just me. Okay, good. Right, so I did a lot of digging recently to understand exactly how this works. So we have like a bass module here that kind of controls the bass, pitch, and tune of the sound. And if you press keys here, you can play that, and that will the tune will change. And obviously, you can then use that in the sequencer here, and then you can play that. Maybe I'm a musician after all. I don't know. I'm getting hang of it. And obviously, like one concept that we had from Pico-8 is that music can be also sound effects. There is no difference between music and sound effects. So sound effects are just music that is played very fast. Sounds good, like maybe some kind of Tetris sound. I don't know. Yeah, so that's cool. But yeah, so how do we customize those sound effects? So this is like a bass module. Every sound effect has, every instrument has this bass module. You can call this now. You can give this a name. That's very useful. This is a new feature. My beautiful sound. And then you can stack different waveform generators on top of each other, and you can then stack modifiers on those waveform generators, like you could do with a lot of synthesizers. So there's here we have a carrier oscillator that just generates a waveform, and that's your basic sound. And all those knobs can modify this. So for example, this knob, this is the most useful knob. This changes the type of the wave that it generates. It goes from a sine wave to a sawtooth to a square wave. So like I'm gonna keep playing the sound, and it's like this is more of a sine wave. And then it gets more jagged when it goes up, right? So that's the thing here. And if you have any questions, by the way, do let me know, because there's lots to explore here. And then you can, for example, stack an effect on top of each of this. So for example, you can add an effect here. Let's go with an echo. That's always a crowd pleaser. And then now, when we play this, sometimes you have to play stop here. That's a bit of a bug. That's not an echo. Give me an echo, baby. So that's very different kind of sounds. You could not produce that very well in Pico-8, so that's really cool. And obviously, you can have multiple oscillators at the same time, and then they will be mixed together, right? So now we have like, can we play And then we can maybe make one a little bit off tune, right? We can bend one of them, so we have like a bit of a, or maybe there's going to be a bit of a different sound wave. Right, so you can really experiment with, yeah. So yeah, you can do a lot of cool things. Okay, so let me just show you some of the crimes that I recently uncovered. Viewer discretion should be advised here. This is going to be some serious stuff. So on the side here, do you have envelopes? And these are your typical, attack, delay, sustain, and release envelopes that you should be familiar with. So for example, if I want sounds to fade out a little, I can increase the ADSR. That's going to be the release. It's going to be longer now. So now the sound fades out a little bit if you want to, or if you want the sounds to fade in, I can increase the attack. So now it's like fades in a little bit softer. And these envelopes can be applied to any knob that you see. And right now, this envelope I experiment with, envelope number 0, is actually applied to volume. That's why it was fading in and fading out. But I could also apply envelopes to any other kind of knob that you see here, so the wave can evolve over time. So for example, let's do like a low frequency oscillator, and let's oscillate this at some kind of level. And then I can drag and drop this onto any of those things here. Let's drop it on the bend. Sure, why not? And then if I play, you don't hear a difference because we have to define a range in between it's oscillating. And you can do that with left click is one edge and right click is the other edge. Nobody told me that. Okay, so let me maybe remove this. So now it's a little bit of a bendy. Oh, that sounds. That's like the trombone simulator right here. Beautiful. That's the exactly kind of music I create always. And then of course you can now play around with this. You can make the frequency higher, so it's more of a vibrato kind of effect. So it's more of like a spooky sound maybe. Right, and then there you get like weird stuff. Again, UI crimes. This is an invisible button. You see that's how it's an invisible button, right? It turns into a hand here, but there's nothing here, right? That's because if you right-click here, you can randomize this parameter. Obviously, duh. And now the tune, the level is randomized every time I trigger the sound effect. I have to also say the range. I'm pressing the same button now, but it's different sound effect now every time I press. Now obviously I can bring it down. So you can do these kinds of things as well if you want to. And then now comes the real crime, the most egregious crime. So these buttons here, they tell you how this parameter is applied to its parent parameter. So this tune gets added to whatever the tune was before, right? And you can make it so it's multiplying or it's replacing it, basically. And then down here, there is a... That's right, that's another invisible button. And you get a times 4 multiplier. And if you click again, you get divided by 4 multiplier on top of that. But I'm not done yet. We're not done yet. Control clicking gets you 16. That's the real secrets of Picotron right there. So yeah, you can really experiment, like if you're like really into modular synthesizers. Oh, some dogs barking outside right there. Yeah, and then another one that I also don't like, but people say that this is a common thing. If you click on this thing, that's also a button, and then you can change this into a noise generator. So now we have noise. Right. And yeah, again, whatever you generate here, you can use this in a sound in the sound effect editor to create sound effects or melodies, and then you can take the melodies and put them on different channels and spread them over time over multiple patterns to create loops to create music arrangements. That's kind of like the idea here. But now we have 8 channels. Previously we had just 4 channels. Yeah, that's really nice. I'm going to show you just like, because I am not a musician, I will show you
I will show you, what did I show you? I wanted to show you, I want to, that's the wrong one I want. This is the one I want. No, it's not the one I want. Where is the, just give me escape. No, what? You know what, let's reboot this. I think we can't find the command line interface. What I want to show you is how a professional person makes sound effects in Pico-8. That's the problem. It was running in the background. It was confusing me. Okay. So load instruments.p64.png. So people from the community are already working with the sound stuff. This is from AbleBody's instrument pack 1 that was recently. And he made a whole bunch of really fun instruments here. Let me go directly into instruments. So you have it like this. And like this. Just like some percussion instruments you can get as well. And state approved. Wow, that's amazing. Some amazing sound effects here. And a bell. And something I think he was working on, some person from the community I was working on was recreating different helicopter sounds as well. So you can do that as well, even like organized by different types of engines and model makes. So that's also something. We have to quit, right? We're over time. Do we have time for a question?
I would say some questions.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Yes. Are there any questions that you would like to ask?
Just an observation.
Yes.
So previously you poke in the memory, and
Yeah.
now you poke in the user interface.
You can also poke in memory. In fact, there's a lot of poking around in general. That is kind of becoming more of a way of interacting with Picotron. So I've shown you how this, let me show you real quick. So I have something prepared for this, that's the question. So I've shown you how in the README file, right, you have like this image here, and that image is kind of like encoding stuff, right? This is a new type of user object that we have now, a type of object that is called a user object, and that basically creates like a two-dimensional array of bits that you can define also, like it's an integer, 16-bit integer, 18-bit integer, signed, unsigned. You have like different types of formats. And you can create those objects, and you can poke in those objects and do like bitwise operations on those objects as well. And I don't know, let me see if I can quickly do like a copy paste. So here's an example of how one is created. So you create a user data, 16 times 16, unsigned 8 integer, that will create your bitmap. And you can poke basically into that bitmap with set, we're using 2 parameters, but in general. And then you can also apply processes on that. So let me load evoke.p64.png. Could not load. What? Oh, I removed it. I have to find it. Yeah. Oh no, I'm in AbleBody's thing. Oh, that's horrible. Let me find this. Can we quickly try to find this? So we are here. We are in app data. So this is the part that's annoying, right? So ideally that wouldn't be, but that was my fault. So it was in wallpapers, right? Here's the Evoke. And then we're gonna get this, and we're gonna put this. Oh, the squishy windows are still on. That's amazing. That is helping a lot right now. Now I moved it out. Hopefully that won't crash. It's gonna be fine. And then let's try this again. Right. And then, so right now we're drawing a sprite that's referring to the sprite number, but we can also create like our own little user object, and we can draw that user object to the screen instead directly. And we just do it by just supplying the user object to instead of a number, right? So we just like draw that little user object that we created. And now it's just a little dot that we created here because we're just setting a single pixel here. But with this operation here, if we do that every frame, that is an operation that is applied to every single entry in this little memory that we created. So every single frame, we add 1 to every single entry in that memory. And that will create like, ooh, a flashing effect because we're cycling through all of the colors on the entire bitmap every frame.
And that's one of those advanced topics that probably will be very interesting to you.
I know this could go on forever.
Yeah, yeah, we could be all day, easily.
The other people are already waiting.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. So let me just wrap up real quick to show you my contact information and everything. So you are obviously invited to join the Picotron community. We need talented people to decode Picotron, to understand its secrets and create beautiful tools for this. There is a beautiful Discord server that you should probably join. This is where most of the stuff is happening. That is really fun. And of course, this is my contact information and my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, I will be here. You can talk to me. You can just reach out to me. I do not bite usually.